Well, hello again everyone. Well, we've still got a bit more to do on this bonnet. Well, I'm going to give it a bit of a rub down first with some 1200 grit, wet and dry. Right, well it's not perfect. There's some still some low bits I can see, quite a few really, but I don't want to risk going through that lacquer into the paintwork. So I'm going to move on to the 2000 grit paper now. Well, now I want to use a cutting polish on it. I've been told by Mark that I shouldn't really be using teacup because of the ammonia content, and he recommended this 3M fast cut polish. So I'm going to give that a go. I've read the instructions and it does mention polishing machines rather a lot, but of course I'll be doing it by hand, so fingers crossed that'll work okay. Let's give it a try. Right, now I'm going to finish with a coat of ordinary car polish. Well, there we go. I think that's as good as that'll be getting. It's far from perfect, that's for sure. You can see still some orange peel coming through, and you can still see some swirl marks from where I sanded with that 60 grit right at the start. That was a big mistake. Don't do that, people. That's not good. But yeah, I'm overall pretty pleased with it. There's definitely some lessons to be learnt. Not bad for a first attempt, I guess, especially given the facilities we have. Anyway, now it's time to turn it over and do the rust protection inside those cavities. Now I'm only going to be spraying inside these cavities, of course, but I'm hoping that it won't escape too much. But just in case, I'm going to mask up round the perimeter with a curtain of newspaper just to protect the front of the bonnet. Well, again, this is something I've never really tried before. I've painted wax oil on before, but I've not attempted to spray it on before. This is the clear wax oil, and it is a thinner version which you can spray inside box sections and cavities and stuff. You need that thinner version to be able to put it through the little pipe that you use to spray it. So you have to spray at 70 to 90 psi, so I'm going to have to crank up the compressor a little bit. I'm going to wear the respirator. I don't know how many fumes it will generate, but there are some indications on the tin that it may not be a good idea to breathe it in. I've got this underbody coating gun that I bought to go with the container, and that has this special tube which you can thread in there for applying the wax oil into the cavities. Right, let's give it a go, shall we? Right, let's get the front of the van uncovered again. have those fixings ready to secure it, and the ones for the stay as well. Make sure we've got a 10mm spanner handy too. You can see some of that wax oil is running out. It's about, I suppose, 2 hours or so since I sprayed it in there. It does say it takes 4 to 6 hours to dry, so maybe we're a bit fast doing this, but it's no bad thing really for the underneath to be covered a little bit more in wax oil. And of course we'll put the sound insulation over there anyway. Of course, got to put the washer jet back on. That would have been easier before I put the bonnet on. Right, let's get that sound insulation and the clips. Now of course we also need those rubber bumpers. They may need a little bit of assistance. Those holes aren't really big enough still, I don't think. there we go. I think we're going to call that finished. Well, that was definitely a very interesting exercise, and I learned quite a bit through doing that. There were a few problems, a few things that I definitely do differently next time. One of the problems is, of course, that it's shown up really the condition of the paintwork on the rest of the van. So having a very nice fresh bonnet does show that the wings and the doors and various other bits and pieces definitely need some attention as well. The other thing you may have picked up on is I do need to spend a little bit of time fiddling just to get the panel gap right and even on both sides of the bonnet. Haven't done that yet. I will do that at some point just to get that looking a little bit better. Next time I do anything like this, I'll definitely avoid using that 60 grit emery paper. That was definitely a mistake. I was trying to make do with the materials and tools that I had available to me without buying too much, but that was definitely a false economy, and if you look carefully you can still see some of those scratches and swirl marks from that first sanding of the paint in the finish. And yeah, that wasn't the sharpest idea. Should have started off with something much finer really. Another mistake I think was to not weld those repairs in flush, just laying those plates over the surface, although they're not seen, wasn't quite the proper job, and I do wish I'd sunk them in flush, and I could have had a go at making them almost invisible then and grinding down those welds a bit better. Another issue that only really became apparent much later on in the painting process was I didn't really put enough base coat on. It looked absolutely fine in the garage with the lighting that I've got in there, but it could do with better lighting really if I'm going to do that sort of thing, because when it came out into the sunlight you could see that the base coat was a bit patchy in parts. And also just really getting a bit better with the spray gun and spending a bit more time rubbing down to get rid of that orange peel where that does happen. I thought I'd got it smooth enough, but when I was airbrushing I was picking up overspray in the orange peel effect, so it's giving a little bit of a shadow to the design. You can still see that slightly in parts. But all in all, a very enjoyable exercise really, and well worth doing. Well, that's all for now. If you enjoyed it, press like. Subscribe if you want to see some more. And ring the bell to be notified when we upload something new.